I know a lot of people are concerned about how that's going to be affecting the prices of CDs and BTS goods if they want to buy. Do you have questions on what's that going to, how is that going to affect um, prices of K-pop goods? Do you have questions? Okay. Reserve that question. Just want to warn everybody that this is not a political discussion. I'm not going to entertain any hate comments on either side. I won't entertain hate comments on the Democrats. I'm not going to entertain hate comments on the liberals. Sorry, on the conservatives. So we're just going to talk about tariff. It's already in place. So we're just going to talk about how that's going to affect the prices, not the politics of it. If anybody starts any kind of controversial discussion about it, I'm going to block you. So just on the tariff, okay? Just on the tariff. First and foremost, the tariff just got into effect. And so the prices won't actually ideal. The scenario is that goods won't actually really get affected until like 3 months down the line because it just went into effect. And so a lot of the goods don't really get into distribution until about 2 3 months. So we shouldn't be expecting prices to go up into 2 3 months. So if anybody actually is rising prices, it's not the tariff. It's just business people trying to take advantage of the of the news to earn more money. Okay, so again, just on the tariff itself. All right, let's explain what a tariff is. It's already in place. Let's not discuss why, whatever is already in place. So it is a tax imposed by one country, so in this case, the US, on the goods and services imported from another country to influence it, raise revenues, or protect competitive advantage. So any goods, for example, that China is distributing to the US or China is selling to US, we're going to put a tariff on it. The same way, China is putting a tariff on our goods when you sell it um, to China. So if you go to, for example, in South Korea, if you buy a MacBook, for example, even though it is manufactured in China, they actually put a tariff. So it's way more expensive because it is a US brand. Now we're doing the same thing for them. If, for example, what's a Chinese product? Like whatever, any kind of Chinese product or Chinese products that were manufactured in China. If they distribute that in the US, then we will put a tariff on it. So it's going to become more expensive. The same way our goods are expensive in their country because they put a tariff on it. So that's a clarification. All of these countries talking about like why we're putting a tariff on them. Many of them, like 99% of these countries, are already putting a tariff on our goods, meaning US, on our goods to their country. Okay. Um, Next, how does it work? So that's an explanation. Country B manufactures towels. It distributes that to country A. And so country A is going to impose a tariff on country B's products. That's why the price goes up. Now, how is that going to affect K-pop is the question. Oh, sorry. So what are the pros and cons? Always in any kind of concept, there's always a pro and always a con. Con would be higher consumer prices because a lot of our goods are manufactured in China. You know the joke, right? US, made in China. Because a lot of our goods is manufactured in China or other countries, then anything that we buy that is manufactured there is going to be more expensive. And then the risk of retaliatory measures, which a lot of countries are doing right now, again, just to make sure they already are putting a tariff on us for a really long time. So they're adding to that tariff that's already in place. And then strained trade relations. As you know, a lot of countries are now saying they don't want to trade with us, that they don't want any kind of relationship. That's a con. That what's the pro? It protects local industries in the short term and also in the long term, because the goal is, if this is the thinking, if, for example, Apple is manufacturing their goods in China and they realize, oh my God, it's just now it's going to be more expensive because I'm manufacturing in China. But if I go back to the US, there will be no tariff. then I'll just manufacture in the US. Now, we're going to get into labor costs, goods costs, raw material costs in a bit. But that is the goal. Like, if it's apples to apples, then might as well manufacture in my own country, then I'm helping my own country. And then it generates government revenue and, of course, the trade leverage, which Trump is now using. Any goods sold in the US. So, what will be affected? Any goods sold in the US that are not made in the US. Okay, for as long as it's not made in the US, even if it is a brand of the US, then it's going to be tariffed. So, Apple, which is a brand in the US, if they manufacture in China, they get tariff. Tesla, if they manufacture in China and then they distribute here, they will get tariff. Anything that is not made here, it will get tariff. Okay, terrifying. Are there tariffs on US performers? For example, if BTS performs here, is the government going to say, I will tariff you? No, they will pay their taxes, and some changes might happen in the way that we're taxing performers, but it will not fall under tariff. Okay, so that is and then that's a different discussion altogether as well, because there are tax relationships. uh, for example, in Korea and the US, there is a partnership, a bilateral agreement. So if a performer is already paying taxes in Korea, then they don't pay taxes in the US, or they only pay a certain amount of tax. For example, also there are exceptions. So, for example, in California, if you perform in, so the Korea and the US have a bilateral agreement, right? So you only pay taxes in one country. In the US, it's usually federal. But if you perform in states like California, then they get taxed separately. But at least they don't get taxed federal. So for everybody who's not from the US, we get taxed twice. We get taxed federal and then state level. There are certain states that don't have income tax and other types of taxes. In the US, we have all sorts of taxes. We get taxed on taxed, and then we get taxed on that taxed as well. Okay. It's one of the most, we're one of the most taxed residents in the world, not just in the US. Okay. Tariff on goods they sell in the US. So, for example, we order a lot on Weavers, global, right? Um, on, or even in the you products that are stocked, that are stored here in the US. So if those goods are not made in the US, yes, they will become more expensive. So if, for example, the poly and the seven moments should not suffer from tariff, because that those were manufactured even before tariff were put in place. But the succeeding ones, yes, it will be affected. Um, Miss Fairlane, it's like I'm sitting in my community engagement and agriculture class. What are you explaining is what we were taught in master's agroeconomic class. Okay, well, I came from a family of educators. I think I've mentioned this before. In our family, teachers are actually revered as much as doctors and lawyers. That's how we look at them. Very, very much respected. So it's like we have to live up to the standards of teachers. Okay, what can they do? So, for example, if Weavers or if Hive doesn't want to suffer from tariff, what should they do? They should manufacture in the US. That's what they should do. They should manufacture here, distribute here, then they don't get tariff. Especially if they're going to establish a career in the US, then they should start manufacturing here. Okay, now the big question. But materials and labor and materials are expensive in the US. Yes, that is true. Imagine in the US, I think in California, our minimum wage is already 17.35, I think, or maybe more. We're close to 20. For California, we're very, very close to $20. So if somebody is going to manufacture something, man the machine or something, or do QA in the 8 hours that they work, then that is times 20. Then that would be 160 per day, and that doesn't include other taxes and then of course there are mandatory things in the US. You need insurance, you need you need to pay taxes on top of the taxes that your employees. So definitely it's going to be way more expensive. And then of course, because materials, because labor is expensive, then everything else is expensive, right? Because there's nothing really that you can do without labor. So yes, definitely way more expensive. So the goal, as I've said, is to eventually have people, the intention in the long term is for people, businesses to actually go back to the US and manufacture their goods here before this globalization move. Right now a lot of our stuff are being manufactured in China, and that those are usually like cost effective or cheap, to be blunt about it. Now, if they start manufacturing in the US, it's going to be more expensive in the short term, but the goal is for money to stay here. So once things actually start getting manufactured here, then there will be more jobs, people will have more money to spend, and then things are going to advance, skills, technology, all of those stuff. Now, how long is that going to take? It's going to take long. So, for example, if let's say what kind of product, maybe I don't know, Honda for example, or Toyota says, okay, we're good, we're going to start manufacturing in the US. It's not going to happen in a year. It's not like they're going to scout a manufacturing plant, set up everything, look for people, construct the plant itself, bring technology here in like a year, right? It's going to take a long time. uh Probably 5 if we're lucky, more likely 10. So a lot of the benefits of putting tariff now will not be felt until like a decade after. So, or 5 years, let's just say, let's be positive. It's not going to be felt until like 5 years after. So whatever benefit they're promising with the tariff won't be felt. It's there, but it won't be felt in the short term. So there's always like a good and the bad. And the effect in K-pop is that it's going to make things more expensive. Is it going to make tickets more expensive in concert? It shouldn't, because as I've said, they're already paying taxes. But if the prices of the stuff that you're buying right now is going up because of tariff, that is most likely businessmen trying to make as much money. It doesn't have anything to do with tariff. It should go up in like 2 months, but not now. So that's the story. Do you have question? um Honda already manufactures, wait, let me go here. Oh, here. Okay. Honda, where is that comment on Honda? Honda already manufactures in the US. I think they are now leaving though. Honda is South Korea, right? Um, they could. I mean, they shouldn't, because we provide military support. We provide military support in South Korea, and it's not like North Korea is gonna go away. So they shouldn't wage war against the US, because they do need our military, and we provide a lot of support in South Korea. So they shouldn't join this frenzy. They should stay. We should be good part. They should stay. They should keep the partnership, because they need more. They need us more than we need them. So if they like start doing all this, I'm going to pull out my business. It's not going to do them well. Um, so, but I don't know. Like, maybe I don't know what's going in their head. Honda is Japan. Oh well, Japan committed to. So Japan promised 3 trillion new investment. Um, so I don't imagine that's going to happen. And the same thing is true with Japan. Japan doesn't actually have their own military. Technically, they don't have their own military. We're also providing them support. So again, one of those countries that shouldn't cut ties with us, because we're providing them military support. They have their own military. It's not called military. And definitely not as strong as would they would want at this moment. They're on their way to that, but they are. I actually put out a video about that. They actually outlawed military. So in their constitution, it is illegal to have their own military. So for the longest time, the U.S. actually supported them and gave their own military, but they have built up some sort of defenses. They're just not calling it military, but they are not there yet. What about Canada? How does it affect? So, one thing that we took away from Canada is the 20 billion annual aid that we're giving them. Is it 20 or 200 billion? One of those two. It's either 20 billion or 200 billion. So that's leaving them. We're also providing them military support. Canada's military is not that strong either. Um, One of the things that will be affected is the energy supply that they are sending the US, because we're importing energy from them, which I think was set up by Trump actually. So that's one. And then we have some goods that are being sold in Canada, so that those they're because they're imposing retaliatory tariff that's going to go up. It's going to the same way it's going to play on the advantage of Canada, because people are going to start supporting more Canadian food and goods. It's going to be good for their economy. So that's how it's going to affect us. However, because we do have a deficit with Canada, meaning we are importing more than we are exporting. We're earning more. They are earning more than we are, right? Because of all this. So they're earning more. So they actually have more to lose. They have more to lose. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to go like the country's going to, it is a sovereign country. So maybe this is what they need to sort of become more independent. That's the answer to Canada. Um, Sylvia, oh wow, I didn't know about Japan. Japan is meeting with the Treasury Secretary in a few days. Yeah, we provide a lot of military support. This is a joke, a running joke in the finance and economic circle. Like whenever people say the US dollar is not hedged on anything, which is true. It's not hedged on anything. It used to be hedged on gold. It's not hedged on anything right now. And the running joke is that no, it's hedged on tanks, on military, on guns. It's a bad joke, but it is true. That's a hedge for dollar. That's why it remains like super strong, because we're providing a lot of support, military support to a lot of countries. So it's painful in the short term for sure. If it works, if it works, it's going to benefit us in the long term. But that is the long term, and I mean long term. It's not going to be like, okay, I'm going to wake up tomorrow and things are going to be better. It's not like I'm going to wake up in 3 years and things are going to get better. So a lot of sacrifices, and then if again, big if, then it's going to benefit us. Phaedra, good night. Good night. What is happening now in the tariff has been proven to be detrimental. It's not being managed properly by current administration. Nothing anyone can say can explain why the top economists are against the nonsense. Um, Primarily because I've always believed that any kind of program, any kind of economic program may work. It all depends on how things are run, right? So any kind, even if we go back to income tax instead of tariff, that has advantages the same way tariff has its advantages and disadvantages same way. It's just a matter of like knowing how to which one is going to who's going to lead to actually run it better. That's so that's that that's that's it. Any kind of program, any kind of government, any kind of form of government actually has its pros and cons the same way in the economy. So going back, let's just lead it back into K-pop. That's how it's going to affect the prices of CDs. Um, that's how it's going to affect prices of goods that they are sending our way. It's going to be more expensive if it is not manufactured in the US. So that is going to be a big detriment for people who want to support their favorite groups. But in terms of prices of tickets, it shouldn't get affected. I'm Canadian and I haven't gotten my head wrapped around the impact. I mean, it's super complicated for a lot of things, but I'm just trying to stay within the K-pop lane because that's what the channel is about. And I mean, I think for the Philippines, which is my home country, um, I don't think it has imposed any retaliatory taxes, and I think we do have zero tariff on U.S. goods, so it shouldn't make a difference. This just makes me depressed. We can bootleg BTS albums. Someone can actually go to Korea, buy them. The thing is that they release US exclusive CDs. So even if somebody actually goes to Korea and buy the album, they still, and of course we need to buy from US stores in order to help in charting. What about Australia? Even buying regular groceries costs $100. I'm not so familiar with Australia. I'm sorry. um, I do not think you're dependent in the US for your military, or you may be. I'm not sure. The whole play is to isolate China. If most countries get on board, it will cripple China trade wise. That is the long term play. BRICS is actually the target. BRICS. Okay. All right. So we're good on that. Is there any other question that you want to ask in relation to tariff and K-pop or Asian pop? Since we have Hive America, why can't we manufacture here? We should. That is the goal. That is the long-term goal for manufacturing to come back for manufacturing to come back to the US. That is the long-term goal. But as I've said, it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take years. Um, Fairlane, Scooter Braun announced today that Hybe America signed a new disruption. Is this with the guy? Their partnership with the guy? Since Hybe has a distribution deal with UMG, does that mean CDs prices will not change? It's not about distribution; it's where it was manufactured. So if the CD is getting manufactured in the US, I'm sorry, in China, then it's gonna go up. The price will go up. If it is manufactured in the US, I think US and China, sorry, not China, South Korea have like a good tariff relationship. Or so yeah. So I think it shouldn't, yeah, yeah, all up in the air. Is J Hope still releasing a new song? Sorry. So there are talks that he will release in the Asian leg of their tour, which is okay because I feel like the US actually got two, right? Sweet Dreams and Mona Lisa. We got two released from him. So I feel like okay, the US can actually uh I mean the Asia can have their own song. I feel like okay. I mean, selfishly, I was hoping in the last day of his concert in the US he would actually sing the last song, the last of the trilogy. But it seems that he's going to do it in Asia, and I feel like okay, since we got two, Asia can have this one. Distribution deal. Yeah, I saw it. It's just I haven't actually gotten to the entire article. Um, Manila, Namhar said Manila. Oh yeah, he released it on the last, was it on the last he only had three concerts in Korea anyway. I haven't gotten over Mona Lisa and he's sexy as hell in glass. I know. Okay, I thought Sweet Dreams was SK. Yeah, I do remember it was in South Korea. But we have Mona Lisa, so I feel like Asia can have the last release. That's fine. And also, to a certain degree, I feel like J Hope needs to allow the song to marinate a little bit because he's releasing too fast. So I feel like maybe there's a chance for the song to go higher in the chart, but we're not given the chance, we are not given the chance to help more in streaming because it's happening too fast. Like you release one and then you release another. So maybe allowing it to marinate a little bit, then it would be like we will have a better chance in pushing the song higher in the chart. Because remember, he that's one of the things that he wanted. One said that Brisa said, I think he will release the third song in Japan. Could be because that's a huge market for him. I think he already sold out first day in his stadium in Japan, which is bigger. I think it's twice the size of BMO. And day one is already sold out.